My name is Sarah, and welcome to my Patreon and to my library. I've always been an avid reader, but when it came to writing, I just couldn't stand writing without doing it out loud, without that engagement and interaction. So when I found these pirates, Anne Bonny and Mary Read, I just so desperately wanted to write about them, but to do it in a group setting. So here's my experiment. I would love to try and write this story of these incredible, inspiring, feisty little women, and to do so in a way that allows us to kind of do it together, to sort of have some interaction and some feedback as we go. I have the story mapped out. I've got a lot of it written. But as it turns out, writing a story about women in the early 1700s who are pretending to be men, at least some of the time, but maybe not all of the time, and not only were they secretly women, but they were even more secretly lovers. It's really hard to keep everything straight, and honestly, some of these chapters, I'm not sure if a reader can tell who I'm talking about as I'm switching pronouns and names, and this is just a project that needs people. So I'm asking you for help. Come and join me, and please help me write this story about these wild and amazing women. There were a few different themes that came up that were really tough for me to write. The first being that Anne Bonny was 18 when she was arrested off of the William. But that means at that point, she'd already been a pirate for 2 years, and she ran off with some second-rate pirate, as the story is told. And when her father was like, no, you shouldn't marry that guy, she burned down his plantation at 16 and took off. And then somehow over the next 2 years, she got help from a gay brothel owner in Cuba who bought her divorce from the first pirate and then sold her-ish to Captain Jack. He paid for the divorce, which was a thing that they did, according to the literature. And I couldn't stand the idea of writing someone who was 18, had been through all of that, and was falling in love with someone who was at least 40. I couldn't write that. So for me, for my story, Anna's a little older. She's in her early 20s. That makes me feel a little better about maybe these choices were made as an adult, and it's a little less like human traffic-y sort of vibe. The next thing was talking about that gender and their sexuality. It was really tricky for me to do that with the lens that we have now, and wondering what it would have looked like then. And I don't know how Mary and Anne would have defined themselves with our language, but I also don't want to disrespect all of the work that we've made toward becoming more open about our sexuality and having some identifying language that feels empowering and not derogatory. And so I'm doing my best here, but I also want feedback on that. Tell me, am I getting into a spot that's offensive, or am I doing an okay job? I'm really trying to write this in a way that's not wildly binary, but all of the stories that I have, all the reference materials are all written by cis, white, hetero men. I have a really limited perspective to get information about them, and then I have this other perspective here, and they really don't mix super well. So I am doing my best to try and write it, and it's so fun. I love it, but I would really love feedback about whether or not I'm doing a good job. So we'll have lots of fun conversations about that too. You know, is this chapter working? Are we getting lost in some of the are we really setting up gender in a very binary way? Or are we doing an okay job of recognizing it's just the early 1700s and that's what we were working with at the time? Please join me. I am having so much fun with this, and every time I show this story to friends, they are smiling and having a great time too. I think this will be a really great way for us to kind of work through some of these issues in this really complex and important story in a way that's a little more communal and a little less individual. And I don't know, I think it'll be good for us. It's certainly been good for me to write it. I'm toying with how to address race in this story. I certainly don't think that everyone in it was white, but Anne was from Ireland, was born in Ireland, and Mary was born in England, so the two main characters are pretty white. And I'm pretty white, so I don't know that I'm really in a place where I could write a dark-skinned character in a responsible way, particularly someone with dark skin in that area at that time. Even with research I'm doing, I just don't know if I'm getting it right or if I'm doing a good job of being responsible about telling those stories. So My main characters are going to be white because I feel like I can do the most honest job with that. And I will have some other characters that are not white, and I'm going to do my best with them. And I will be reaching out to some friends and asking for consults. And if at some point we have enough money for me to get a professional consult and have someone go through these characters for me, I would love that, because I would love to really make a story that's respectful and responsible to a lot of different people. And there are some experiences and perspectives on life that I just don't share, but I haven't been there and I don't know what it's like yet. Yeah, so that's my story. A story of love and gender and pirates who found ways to exploit the patriarchy for their own benefit whenever it suited them. And I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope you'll come along with me and help me write it. See you soon.